Okay, thanks for coming to my talk about our research project Okinesio, which we are working on at University in Münchberg, that's in southern Germany, in northern Bavaria for about 2 years. We are funded by the Bavarian state, and we have a lot of fun developing an open source hardware for activity tracking. We are a team of 6 people right now. I'm teaching interaction design at University, and I have 2 research assistants with me, and about 2 and 3 students which are working on the project and doing different tasks like electronics, information visualization, and so on. At first, we ask the question, why do we really have to develop another tracker, another fitness tracker, because there are a lot of them on the market. 2014, there were only Fitbit and Nike, but in 2015, there were a lot of brands on the market which you could buy for about 50 euros to 100 euros, and they were quite good, they're looking good, they're precise, but what's the reason why we are developing another activity tracker, an open hardware activity tracker? Because we were searching very long for a tracker where we are owning our own data, where we can work with our data, download our data, and visualize our data. And we did not find anyone on the market which had a sufficient API to work with the data. There are a lot of privacy issues with current activity trackers. You don't own your data, you don't know what happens with your data once they are uploaded to the cloud, and we tested a lot of them. We did some research with proxies and so on, and had a look what's happening with this data, and we were a bit afraid about what we saw. And that's the reason why we thought we should develop another one where you're owning your data, where you decide as a user what happens with your data once you upload or visualize it. Regarding the data, we have a lot of people who want this activity data. It's not only how many steps you're walking each day, but it's a lot of information about how you're sleeping and about your medical conditions. So insurers in Germany, for example, are very keen on getting this data, and we think a lot of people wouldn't want to have their health data uploaded and analyzed by different companies. So we decided we produce our own activity tracker. And in the beginning, we didn't exactly know how to do it and if we can do it, because we are designers, we are creative coders, but we are not any electrical engineers. So we based on the Arduino platform, with which we are working for several years, and this open hardware platform gives a kind of democratization of hardware production. Everyone, designers, artists, and so on, are able to build upon what other designers created with Arduino and remix a new hardware platform out of existing hardware platforms. This democratization we are seeing everywhere we are looking around, especially here. In the past, we see that only a few people could produce plastics and models out of plastics granulate, for example, with this extruder. And nowadays we all have 3D printers in our office and at our universities, where we can produce ideas within an hour or 2 hours, which would have taken months and a lot of money in the past. The same situation we have in electronics, which is a new development where in the past only a few could create new PCB plates for new electronics, and nowadays with, for example, the Arduino platform, we can create new interfaces, new devices within some minutes or hours. And with platforms like Fritzing from Potsdam, we always also are able to create fixed new PCBs from our sketches and create small little devices of our own. This is the Arduino platform, so it takes only 2 weeks to produce such a PCB in your institute. There are already some boards which we could have built upon. The new Arduino 101, for example, it has 6 DOF sensors, accelerometers, gyroscopes for tracking steps and motion, but it's quite large. It's very affordable, about 30 or 40 euros, but it's quite large, so it's too large to fit it, for example, in a clock or in a thing you can put on. The other one, the Ambient Labs has also a very good tracker with Bluetooth LE, but there we thought it's a bit too complicated to work with. It had too much features to work with, features we do not really need. So we created our own with a focus on simplicity. We have only an Atmel board, an Atmel processor, and an BMI 160 Bosch sensor for the motion tracking, which is a great little device, the small one in the back. It's only 3 by 2 millimeters, and it's very intelligent. It tracks steps, and it saves a lot of energy. So it was a perfect sensor for our platform. Before we started the development, we did an evaluation of current hardware. We took all popular trackers on the market in 2015, last year. There's Fitbit Flex, Misfit Shine, Jawbone, Up24, Withings Activity Pop, Garmin VivoSmart, and Sony SWR10. So these were the most popular trackers in 2015. We took them and did several evaluations. We had a runner which took different exercises, running 100 steps, walking 100 steps, running 600 steps, walking 600 steps, and we compared the steps we were actually running and the results the trackers delivered us. And on the other hand, we had we built a small robot which simulated the movement of the hand in order to reproduce the running tasks and to eliminate errors which could have been made by the runner, for example. So we had these two approaches. This looked like this. We had really all trackers on one hand. We did other exercises with only one tracker, and then we compared the results. The results were quite interesting. Most of the trackers did really fine. You see it here. Yeah, you can read it from Fitbit to our tracker. There's the Misfit Shine, which didn't well in the 100-meter walking tests, but in the running tests, they all did quite well because there's much more energy and more weight on the sensor, and that's why it counts more accurate. Our tracker didn't work. Whoops. It's a bit slow, sorry. No, our tracker did not very well in the walking tests. That's why that's because we didn't calibrate it to the weight and the size of the runner in the first. We have this enabled now. Now the accuracy is much better. And in the running tasks, even without calibration, we were deliver the same quality as commercial trackers on the market. That was a proof that our hardware, especially with the Bosch BMI 160 sensor, works as accurate as commercial trackers, and so we knew we could go on and produce our own hardware. Since we are designers and no electric engineers, we did an approach. We are also approaching in other projects. We are doing the trial and error and the learning by doing approaches by John Dewey, and but that's a bit more complicated when you're working with hardware than when you're working with software. There's no Command C for going a step back, and there's no button for recompiling hardware. When you did something wrong, you have to create new PCB boards and wait 2 weeks until they are produced in order to eliminate your error. That was something we had to learn, and it was an interesting learning curve we did the last months. On the left side, you're seeing our first prototype. It's a standard Arduino Micro, and on top of this is our breakout board for the BMI 160, and we used a commercial Arduino board and tried if our sensor works okay with this board. It did. It looked a bit sketchy, but in the end it worked very well. And since this worked, we could go on and search an open hardware platform we are building on. So we didn't have to create a complete new PCB board from scratch. That wouldn't have been possible for us. But we built upon the works of other designers. Here, the LilyPad USB Arduino design, which is very great and fit our purposes of a small board with a 3-volt processor, which is working on top of a coin cell. We took it, worked with a fritzing platform from FH Potsdam to create a new board, to remix a new board out of the LilyPad board that fit our size and where we could put in our motion sensor, which is now on board of the Arduino. This looked like the one on the right side. Then we produced the PCB board from fritzing, where you have to send your Eagle files to fritzing, and 2 weeks later you get for about, I think, €4, you get one PCB board, a blank PCB board. And then you can order your parts, the processor and the motion sensor and all the other parts, USB port and so on, and place it on the board and burn it in your reflow oven. The price is very interesting. We are at around €20 production costs right now. It's an open hardware project, so we aren't selling them yet, and we are buying the parts in a very small amount, so it's quite okay to get a finished Arduino board with motion sensor for around €20. How does this production work? In the beginning, we were a bit afraid because these parts are very small. The BMI is about 2 by 3 millimeters wide. The pins on the board are a half a millimeter wide, so it's very tiny and very small. But in the end, it was quite easy to place them on the board because you don't have to weld like in the past, but you're placing them on the board, like on the left side, and then you put it in a reflow oven, which is nothing else than a pizza oven with a temperature control. and then the soldering paste melts and fixes the parts. So this was quite easy. We had to test 2 or 3 boards, which didn't work in the beginning. Had to get experience with placing the parts on the board. But right now, for my recent assistants, it's a task of half a day to produce new boards. It's very interesting. We thought that would take much longer, but right now it's really no problem for us to produce new boards as soon as the PCBs arrived. That was a proof. It worked. Our board, after some learning curves, we did a lot of errors, like we always do. We learn from our errors. In the end, it worked. We are now in the second year. We began 2015. We began working on the hardware in summer 2015, and in February we had our first working Arduino board, and then it took some more approaches to get the motion sensor working and the software working. But since 2 or 3 weeks, we have finally a working board, also with battery. With a battery holder, so it's independent and works and stores our motion data. I have 2 boards with me. If someone would like to beta test some of the boards, I have 2 handmade boards with me, which I can give away, and we are happy if you're using it. What are the next steps? What are we doing with the project right now? We are doing a lot of experiments with our students, which is very interesting. Last semester we had a project with a skateboard brand where we were visualizing forces of skateboarders, here with light, for example. So we did information visualizations in 3D, where we were visualizing forces with color and with typography. There were very interesting results, and it was a lot of fun to produce in skate halls. Currently, we are designing the case and the connectors. Since we think that privacy is very important, we have 3 different approaches. We have an air gap version where you really connect your device to your computer and nothing else. So there's no Bluetooth LE involved or other wireless technology, and the data is stored on your device. The second is a more common approach for mobile phones. We have a phone check, like other activity trackers, where you put in your phone check and transceive the data. And the third approach is a Bluetooth LE variant, which connects to your phone over the air. We are working on the cases, very simple 3D printed cases fit by rubber bands, so we don't want to go into really production, but produce the cases, different cases in our laboratory too. We are at most maker fairs. Last year we were at Maker Fair Berlin first, Munich. I think we will be there this year too. We have an important paper at the HCI conference, where we are publishing all the results we made, all the results we made over the last year in a paper at HCI in Toronto. That will be very interesting. And we are publishing all our efforts and progress on our website, okinesio.org. And we have a large knowledge base, which is very important for people who want to start creating own devices, own PCBs, own electronics. All the things we had to learn in the first year, we put in our knowledge base about electronics, about data APIs of fitness trackers and so on. So it's a growing knowledge base where we hope that others can profit of it too. And all the design is put on GitHub, so if someone wants to remix our board and put some other sensors on it and create a completely other device, it's open for remix, and all the files are certainly open source and put on GitHub. So that's it. My 20 minutes are over. Thanks for listening. The internet address. Thank you. The internet address is okinesio.org. We are on Twitter under hashtag okinesiolab, and ixd-hof.de is our project website with the projects of our students. So if you have any questions about hardware production and so on, I'm happy to answer them. Yep.
Why is it important to have activity trackers that are not connected to any mobile devices? Is it because of the GPS
A bit louder,
signal?
sorry. I think I'm not in...
So why is it important to have activity trackers that are not connected to the phone? Why is it because of the GPS signal that phones are sending, or?
The Bluetooth LE chips which are in there, they are trackable everywhere. So you're sending out your device ID, and every shop and so on can track you over the whole city and the whole world.
Okay.
So it has a unique ID. That's a problem with it.
Okay.
And so we decided we have a phone gap, air gap version where we can put it into the phone and transmit the data directly via wire on the phone.
Any more questions?